Greetings from the Philippines to the world. We are on Facebook Live on Eagle News and also on our streaming site, eaglenewslive.com. Watch us on our YouTube channel at Eagle News. I am Caesar Vallejos. Welcome to Open for Business. Join me discover the latest news and information in business around the world. Stay ahead of the curve from vision to action. Miss Sheila, thank you very much for coming to this.
Thank you, brother, for having me here again.
We've seen in the news that you have already reported a lot of, which are very significant updates on the real estate market. But a lot of the questions now are propping up, especially with what happened with the Taal eruption. Although, based on my latest interviews also with some thought leaders, the impact, as mentioned to you off-cam, was just small in terms of its impact to the GDP. But in your case, being a thought leader in the real estate business, what would be your advice to investors, property owners there? We don't want to scare them, but is this a time for them to hang on, to keep their properties or to buy or sell? But again, it's good that we hear the latest news that the level 4 was already reduced to level 3, and I think everything is going back to more normal. Your outlook, Ms. Sheila?
Specifically for Taal or that area, Tagaytay area, right now, of course, a lot of investors and even occupiers, the tenant side, they're very cautious in investing there. Definitely, it's because of what just recently happened. Real estate there was heavily affected. However, outside that area, it's still very normal, business as usual. And as I've shared in our earlier report, the real estate market in the Philippines, they're primarily focused in the main CBDs, the commercial business districts, and Tagaytay is actually outside of that. So the main business areas are still doing very well. The investors are still okay doing business. Companies are still expanding and growing. So the next issue that we have now is actually this health scare, which you also mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Of course, with you, you are one of the thought leaders again who paint this rosy picture of the Philippines, and of course you also travel from one country to another, and we also believe that it is very paramount that we go to these countries and invite them to come and visit the Philippines, and you yourself, you go to the different countries to promote the Philippines. But what do you think would be the impact of the latest coronavirus with foreign investments? And of course, a lot of people are, we want to appease them. But recently, I think it's the World Health Organization which declared that this is already a global epidemic.
Yeah. The Philippine real estate market is still so much very positive. Our outlook is still positive. You will see that in the last 8 years, we've had a very high GDP growth rate, and investors will always look at that. Anywhere you go, when the GDP growth rate is above 6% or better than that, it means that the country is growing in all industries, in all aspects. So the Philippine real estate market, as it is not really affected with what's happening. Of course, there are some slowdown in terms of decision making because those who are based in China or here in the Philippines, but their headquarters are in different offices in China. Of course, there are some slowdown in terms of making decision whether they'll take their office here, expand or what. But the locals who are here are continuously moving, doing business. We've not seen any companies or clients saying that they'll stop their office expansion or their real estate acquisition simply because of what happened. We've seen some who are now averse or not willing to buy properties or locate their big chunk of their business in the southern part, like near Tagaytay area. But otherwise, everything seems normal, given what's happening right now. It's still very early, I think, to say that there is already a big impact or an impact with what's happening, at least for the real estate market or in the Philippine economy in general.
Now, Ms. Sheila, you painted this very, and you reported, as a matter of fact, you reported that 2019 was a banner year for real estate.
Yes, yes.
Can we sustain that growth? And if yes, if the answer is yes, what will be the key drivers to
Yeah.
sustain the growth of 2019?
So 2019, we've said, was one of the best, if not the best years for the real estate market, simply because aside from the call center industry, the outsourcing industry, who is primarily driving the whole economy, they're employing Filipinos, they're taking office spaces left and right. And
Magkano, sorry, magkano
Yeah.
na ba yung, how much
well,
is the
how much is
contribution
the,
now?
Right now, in terms of take-up, when you look at the office take-up, which is actually one of the best barometers of the economy, meaning when office spaces are taken, jobs are being created in the market. These companies will not lease if there are no jobs to be created, right?
Yeah.
So when the demand is high, it means that there are companies who are investing in the Philippines and really growing their business here. So last year was actually the highest at 1.1 million square meters of office spaces. So that's a lot. That's like two mega malls taken in 1 year.
Wow.
New contracts signed and paid. So that's the kind of business office economy that we have in the Philippines. And the composition of that 1.1 million square meters, the main, the biggest takers was the Chinese, the POGO, the Philippine online gaming operators. They pass now. They're the biggest now in terms of demand. And second is the call center, the BPO industry. And then the third one would be the normal, traditional office clients, office tenants. So
But do you
those are
think
the
that-
three main drivers.
Yeah, but do you think with the POGO, do you see any specific impact of the coronavirus? And with that, will you rethink the projections?
The projection. Well, what's being supplied is actually taken. So with this one, since there are travel bans right now, we've heard some of our clients who are somehow affected temporarily because of the travel ban. Their employees who are from China cannot, of course, just come in here easily right now. They have to go through the series of checks and all that. But I believe once these are all, treated, done, and the government, and not just the Philippines, all over the world, they're working on fixing, curing, finding the best solution for what's happening
And they're
right
fast.
now.
Kudos
Yes, they are.
to the doctors. They're
Who are
really fast.
there 24/7 finding things, looking at cures for what's happening right now. Temporarily, yes, there will be some effect, but I believe in the long run it will continue. The market is still very healthy. In Asia, in Southeast Asia, Philippines is one of the best economies, doing well. A lot of countries, not just, of course, Chinese, not just the China market, a lot of countries are interested in the Philippines, investing here and coming here in the Philippines. Simply because we have the population, big population, very young population, English speaking, and therefore they can easily expand, do business here. And I believe that's why your next guest will talk to you about marketing and their growth and all that. And there are a lot of companies who are like that, big local firms who are also expanding in the country.
Now, there's a lot of areas in the real estate business. You have office, you have tourism, you have residential. So what are the exciting things that are happening on a per sector basis?
Of course, the office market is there all the time. Aside from that, the hotel, the dormitories, that segment is also growing because of the companies and all these foreign investors who are coming here in the Philippines. The provincial areas, they're growing also. The mixed-use developments outside Metro Manila, because as I've shared before, the government would like to decongest Metro Manila and put urbanization outside Metro Manila and into the provinces. That's why we see, other than Cebu, Davao, Cavite, Laguna, Bulacan, Pampanga, Clark, all those areas near Metro Manila are also flourishing. And that's also driven by a lot of build projects are happening. And that's great for the Philippines to, of course, to travel, to make travel easier. transferring of goods from one place to another, and that would fuel not just the real estate business, but all the other sectors in the Philippines as well.
Now, you mentioned that the growth will not be concentrated in Metro Manila alone. So, are you seeing what specific areas of the Philippines, especially, of course, we wanted to decongest Metro Manila. So, of course, I think some of the guests, informed me that Clark is really something, and it's everything's happening in Clark,
very
also
busy.
in Davao, in Cebu. What other areas, also in Bulacan? What's happening in these regional areas? Why is there such a boom in terms of real estate?
Well, number one, land in those areas are still affordable compared to the main CBDs. So if you're a big developer, you can still expand, buy big chunks of properties in those areas and make mixed-use developments. That's one of the best trends that we're seeing, and it's growing everywhere. When we say mixed use, in one area you'll have the office, the residential, the hotels, the schools, the malls, so that you don't have to go away. You're just in one area and you'll find everything there. It's like a work, live, play type of environment, like what you see in BGC. They're trying to replicate that all over the Philippines. And the big developers, the big players of the Philippines are doing that in provincial areas. And one of course, the drivers, once the BPO, the call centers are in that area, then all these developments are also coming in. So when there is an office because of the call center or the BPO market, of course, they'll need hotel, they will need a hospital there, the malls, and it will be eventually a vibrant area. And that's what we've seen in Cebu, in Davao now, of course, because the current administration is focusing a lot of projects in Davao. But near Metro Manila, as I've shared, Pampanga, Clark, Bulacan, Cavite, Laguna, those are all growing, and because it's very accessible by land also from Metro Manila.
Okay, now, Ms. Sheila, there's you mentioned about this work, play, live type of concept. Is this one of the trends of real estate, and how should developers, adapt to the changing consumer behavior? So unlike before, you just have an office and you don't care whether a Starbucks or any fast food chain is down below. What aside from that, what are the trends now that is working?
That one will continue. If you travel also in the first world countries, those are the things that they already have in place, and it's happening here in the Philippines. It's creating communities that's sustainable, meaning you will love to live in the area because everything is near you. And with the traffic that we have now, you don't want to travel from Quezon City to Alabang, right? Or from Quezon City to Makati. If you can just stay in one area and have everything there, then better for you. You will have a better life. The quality of life will be better, and you'll save a lot of time, right? You don't want to be traveling 4 hours a day, going to work, and then going back home. So, and that is why it's better to have that mixed-use development wherein you can, livable city. You will be happy where you are because everything is in place. So, as I've shared, the hospital, the school, the hotels, place of work, place of recreation and entertainment should all be like in one area. And it will save you time, traveling time and all that. And you'll have a better quality of life too.
Oh, perfect. Now, Ms. Sheila, there's a lot of entrepreneurs, small and medium enterprises who are watching us. In case they will rent, they will invest in a property, they're looking for some properties or office spaces to find. What do you think are the key factors that they should consider, of course, to save costs, to save time, and what are your tips for our small and medium business owners who want to really come up with a very good location for their businesses?
If they're on the tenant side, meaning occupier side, they should think about their employees, right? First and foremost, the workplace or their employees' office, their location should be accessible. flood-free, and the convenience of the employees should be taken into account. Happy employees, of course, will produce better result, and in return will make your company grow.
Yes.
Now, if you're on the landlord side, the investor side, if you will acquire and buy properties, depending on your budget, but you always look at properties that has potential, higher potential to grow in terms of capital value. So right now it's very expensive. The land values in Metro Manila is quite high because of the demand. Everyone's buying, everyone's expanding. They want to own a piece of land. That's why even condominium rates now everywhere is so high. Not just locals are buying, but foreigners as well, right? So if you're an investor, you always look at potential area, growth areas, right? Wherein, how many years from now that property will escalate in value, and you have to look long term. Real estate is always a long term play.
What about, Ms. Sheila, the idea of co-working? Because there's a lot of entrepreneurs who, of course, don't want to spend so much in their operations, in buying their own spaces or renting a lot in terms of occupancy. So, is this a trend that that co-location, co-working spaces? Is this a trend that will continue?
We believe so, yes, because like you said, co-working, co-sharing, co-living, etc. It's not really a new trend. It started long time ago. They called that before serviced office, instant office. Now they call it co-working. And that's because several companies or many companies right now, they prefer to use their capital instead of spending that capital in building their office. They'd rather spend that, in other growing their business or with their spending that to their people. So now that co-working, instant office is growing because it's strategically located in the prime CBDs, in areas that are accessible, flood-free, etc. And if you're a company or a small business, it's easier to go there because you'll have the office instantly. All you have to bring is your laptop or your PC and you're good to go, and you just pay on a monthly basis. You can expand, you can shrink anytime. They're selling flexibility. It's a little more expensive than, building your office and amortizing the rent, but in the short term, it's better because you only pay for what you use. And it's growing, it's gonna be there. It's not just a trend. In fact, it's everywhere right now. Even the big developers are into this co-working type of environment wherein you only pay per seat. And if you can just, you can use it for a month, for a year, depending on your project. So it's good for foreign companies who are just entering the Philippines to test the water. They can just rent on a monthly basis. And then when their business expands, then that's the time that they'll build their permanent place, their permanent office. So in terms of risk, they're putting the risk to that co-working developer.
Wow, that is very insightful. We are lacking time now, but there is one more question, and I hope you can come back to explain it. But there are a lot of developments with REIT. Can you just briefly explain what REIT is and the issues behind it?
Well, right now, I've not reviewed the new governing laws. It's still not that clear, and I believe they are still polishing that. But I think it's good because
maybe if you can
the real estate
define,
investment trust is something that the first world countries have, that we want to have as well, because we are a mature market now. A lot of developments have happened in the Philippines. We have malls, hotels, shopping center, offices. So they're putting the real estate assets into a stock, right? So it's like you can already have a piece of that.
So I don't
from
have to
a
be
rental
Lusotan or Henry C. to
and you can
be
have
a part of the
it.
property.
Yes, so it's like
Anyone
playing in
can.
stock market. So, but there, of course, you have the rental income there, guaranteed by the contracts, of course, the leases of the companies in these big malls or big office spaces. And usually the contracts are between 5 to 10 year leases. So it's a very stable, somehow investment. However, the returns and all that, I think they're still finalizing that. But I believe it's good. It's good for the big investors, the big players, because it's one of the easiest ways to get capital, right? To get
yes.
capital from the public and reinvest that and grow their business. And at the same time, it's also good for the locals to have access to this big projects, quality real estate developments that are backed by long-term leases, so they're stable and all that. Well, how it will be implemented is another story, which we still have to study, because there are tax implications and rules and all that. So maybe next time when we come back, we'll know more deeply about the real estate investment trust. But the fact that it's already starting in the Philippines, that's a good sign. Philippines is really growing.
That is perfect. We cannot let you go before without you giving tips to entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Okay, I'm an
I
entrepreneur
know that
myself.
you are entrepreneur yourself and one of the most dynamic lady CEOs of the country. Your camera is there.
All right. My advice, you have to know your numbers very well. Business is all about taking risk and analyzing the market. But if you love what you do, if you like what you do, I know you'll find time to study the market, your business, and therefore you'll be able to come up with either a product or a service that will have value and people will, of course, buy or will get, because it's something that will help them grow their business as well. It's all about creating values, right? Creating something that your clients will like, will love, and will need. Otherwise, they will not buy from you.
Lovely words from Sheila Lobien, CEO of Sheila Lobien Realty Group, or LRG. Open for Business will be back. Scott James Rojas and Mark Salboro of Phoenix Petroleum will join me in the set. Stay with us.
Thank you.